And now we're ready to generate our PDF. So what do we have to do to generate the PDF? Simple. We just say File, Save as PDF. And we get a dialog that says, what's the name of our PDF file that we want to save? We say, okay, we want to save this, and the file exists. So now FrameMaker has to go out and start looking at all of those files and assembling. It has to pull each of these DITA files into FrameMaker templates and then go through and make a lot of the decisions that are typically go into creating PDFs. It has to know all the FrameMaker styles that are used so that we can gather bookmarks. So while it's doing that, I just want to talk a little bit about stripping the white space. Now, there's a variety of ways of stripping the white space. What I did in this case was I created an XSL template that actually goes through and does what we call an identity transform. That is, it transforms document A into document B, and while it's making those changes, it makes a few small checks on things. And one of the things that we do here in this, normally what we do is just take in the text and we say normalize space, and this in itself is all that we need for removing all those blanks. But if you think about it, there are some elements of text that you don't want to modify the white space in. And a code block is a really good example of that because you want things to line up. You want the carriage returns to be exactly as they're typed by the author. So in this case, I've said if we have a code block, then just process this with our keep space. So all we do is just make copies of those things. That is, when we encounter a code block, we don't do anything any differently. So that's just a view in it. I'm going to talk in a little bit about another tool you can use, and there are other ways of stripping white space, but that is one that we can do. So now we're back on track, and we get what we would expect to see in FrameMaker when we're generating a PDF. And so it says, okay, we're generating a PDF. We want to, it asks us now about bookmarks. So let's go and set our bookmarks. So let's do one thing, and just a free FrameMaker tip. If you hold down the Shift key and click these arrows, everything moves over to one side or the other. So I held down the Shift key and clicked right, and everything moved over to the right side. So now what we want to do is just find our titles. So let's just move title 1, 2, and 3. And so we also want our bookmarks. Another tip, if you hold down the Shift key while you click the level, everything moves at once. So what we've done is we've moved one. We want to move one over that way and one over that way, and we're all set. So now we can say set, and so now we're going to go off and actually generate our PDF. And this in itself doesn't take too long, and it's actually rather unremarkable when it's done. You just come back to the FrameMaker interface. So you see here, here's our hacking PDF file that we just created. I can double-click that because I was silly enough not to have Acrobat open already. And in just a second, as soon as that comes up, I can drag this on screen. And so you can see we've got our bookmarks. They were created just the way we wanted. We can come down here to our building our specialized structure where things look a whole lot better. And we can scroll through here. We can see our nice red code samples or code block elements, and our figure laid out quite nicely here. Actually, we needed to do a few more things evidently there on layout, but that's a matter of tweaking in FrameMaker. So clearly we probably had a flow issue in figures. So there's our PDF. So,
all right, back to slides.
Yes. So you can take control from me. All right. So what are the pitfalls of FrameMaker? Well, as we saw several times there, it is sensitive to white space. If there's one thing, and if there's anybody from Adobe online paying attention, if there's one thing I would love Adobe to fix is this whole problem with white space. It is really annoying.
Sorry, just to interject, there was a question about that, which I answered in the questions tab.
Okay.
Is all the white space a bug that may be fixed as far as you know? And the answer is, I just don't know whether they'll fix it or not. I don't know that they've acknowledged it as a bug.
Yeah, and it's been there for a while, but and it may be a day one bug. It may be some problem they have in parsing their XML in the first place. So, so it is sensitive to white space. If you have specializations, FrameMaker does deal with specializations, but it is a little bit more work because you do have to go then into your EDD and modify the EDD to reflect what's in your specialization, and of course then you have to modify your template document so that it reflects what your specializations need in display. Round tripping from FrameMaker is, while it can be done, there are some issues to it. And one of the problems is once you save a file from FrameMaker as XML, FrameMaker then puts a whole number of processing instructions in the file which make it easier if you need to bring the file back into FrameMaker. But there are many times people notice that there are problems when people write the file out as XML and then try opening it in a different authoring tool. Those processing instructions and some of the other things that FrameMaker does to the file make it a little bit more difficult to deal with. The other problem is authoring. Now, authoring goes with round tripping. So if you're going to be using FrameMaker, the best thing to do is to author your DITA documents in an actual DITA editor, such as Oxygen or XML, and then bring them into FrameMaker. Do what you need to do, tweaking the layout, do what you need to, generate the PDF, and then throw away the files because you want to continue doing your authoring actually in the XML files. And the authoring issue, mostly in FrameMaker, is just people find while there is some familiarity with unstructured FrameMaker, the addition of structure makes the editing experience very different in FrameMaker. And it is, for want of a better word, rather clunky at times. So, our recommendation is, if you're going to go with FrameMaker as your engine for producing PDFs, and I think it's a fine engine for producing PDFs, the one other thing you probably need to do is get Leximation's DITA FMX plugin. This plugin makes it a whole lot easier to work with DITA files in FrameMaker. They offer a lot of control over DITA val files, which we haven't really talked about, but DITA val files are what you use in DITA maps for controlling conditional display of information. There's a nice feature in DITA FMX. You can find all your conrefs, and you can say, show me where this is used. So if you have some block that is referenced by other pieces of text, you can have it show you where those references are. DITA FMX supports specialization, and one really nice thing is it does strip the white space, so you don't have to worry so much about white space if you're using the DITA FMX plugin. So